5:32. Can I get a roll call?
Chair Fleming. Here. Vice Chair Thompson.
Present.
Member Beamer. Here. Member Stewart.
Here.
Member Wilson.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Rob, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I would do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Got there.
All right, we'll move on to public comment. Any public comment there? Can you please state your name for the record?
Thank you, Chair. Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. And I'd just like to say I am so sorry I had to miss any meetings. I know you missed me, right?
I do. Oh, we always miss you, Mr. French.
Anyhow, I do appreciate this latest agenda, and I've done what I could on reading the all of the new late material as far as legislations, and I have 6 that I picked out specifically. The guzzlers, I think that's a great idea. That's a lot of consideration towards that. The invertebrates, I have a little bit of it tickles me, that word does. And then also on the sagebrush, I'm concerned about what happened to Prison Hill, and I don't want to see any more of that devastation of virgin sage. I know that the state's looking into putting considerations towards this, saving or preservation of sage. Now, everybody says there's sage everywhere, it's a pain in the butt, but sage and rabbit brush are major to our habitats. And I did get a little bit of a up deal from Tim, and I'm using first names, and that's not to be disrespectful, but I'm really struggling at all the meetings I'm at to catch that, so please excuse that. But he brought me up on the deer situation as far as the urban. I saw deer off a division that looked really bad. They just looked bad. There were 8 of them, I believe, at the time, and they looked all done out. You know, they looked baggy, saggy, and a mess. They looked like they had what cats do when they have mange type deal, but he informed me it's probably seasonal shedding, so I feel much better. So that was good. I'm just not a...
Here in town?
Yes. And I've been seeing more and more. I've been traveling different areas and run quite a few at a time. And so other than those, that particular group, most of them look pretty healthy, but maybe that, like they say, haven't started their shedding. But the next thing is that I am concerned about the corridors. I know I missed a meeting where that was brought up as far as wildlife habitat and it's what migration and the state's request for all cities and such to contribute to lists that would recommend areas that might be good for such of migration path through Carson, perhaps. Carson City Open Space doesn't seem to be interested in following any efforts that BLM land is coming up and other state land may become available and such like that. We don't have a whole lot of private land that anybody's going to donate to sage, but that the city doesn't have any more real, but a few places that they own that would be considered sage or a stopping point for certain insects or birds and or deer and such, as far as migration. And a lot of the urban migrate right into town. So their migration is to us as a community. So that I'd like to have, and I think it was brought up in the meeting I missed. So I apologize for that. But the main thing is those are my major concerns, but I really appreciate the fact that you're considering the urban wildlife. I mean, we're sore, but I'm sorry, I hope that the time thing, I see the clock moving, but I'm sure I've exceeded my 3 minutes. I can maybe bring the rest up at the end so I don't hold you. Thank you.
Yeah, just clarifying question, if I may, Mr. Chair. As far as the sagebrush ecosystem that you brought up, just so we're understanding how to best address that, are you talking about, to help me understand what happened on Prison Hill that infringed upon that? Because that's like one of the biggest collection sites for sagebrush seed in the entire state. So
What I can say only what I know, what do you call it, when it's sort of secondhand, because I haven't been able to find it in my research. But when the grant was given, the area was given to them for use. And it was under the consideration that it would not disturb more than a certain percentage of sage. I believe that they've exceeded that amount to quite a degree. And as much as I've been crying about the sage, everybody keeps poo-pooing me as suggesting that it's everywhere. And I'm going, I don't think so, not so healthy. And as you said, but the latest contractor that was up there, a young man, I won't mention names, but he was afraid I was in the way of some of his vehicles or was going to get run over or something. He was working on coons for their trailhead. And the road there, he had construction going in and out from where he was parking his equipment. And so he approached me and I went over to him. I was taking a picture of the stuff on the sign that was there, but I was way out of any area. But it was very thoughtful. And I said, you know, you're working in a conservation easement area. He didn't even know what that meant, but he took it to heart. And all the work that I observed up there, they did their best to keep from making a bigger footprint around their work environment area. I was concerned about the monkey flower and a few other of the areas that you can't see until they're growing during their seasons. But they have certain designated areas, so I was concerned about that. But the sage, I was really concerned. 4.2 miles, excuse me, I think. Get it wrong, I'm not good at numbers, but it seemed to exceed what I would have thought they intended to have happen. And they are going to replant. They're going to do some mitigations on trails to try to limit those public ones that they just go all over the hill and end up eating it up. But that's a really, I'd almost say sacred, but I'm not such a religious person. But to me, it's got a great vibe, and it was a shame to see that happen.
Okay.
Besides the fragmentation, so that's that. But I do appreciate your eyes and ears on the critters in town, especially because I know you're also in the other areas. But thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Assuming that's the only public comment. No one's on the phones or anything, right? All right, perfect. We'll move on to an update on activity report on the Carson City Urban Wildlife Committee.
Mr. Chair, at this time, I don't have anything for that. I'll save what I will have, hopefully, for the next board meeting we have.
All right. Seeing no real comment or updates. No one else. All right. We'll move on to meeting items. Looks like we only have one today, with a lot of meat on the bone. How would you recommend we go about this one? Is there anything we want to discuss on all this legislature?
Well, so would anybody be object to me just kind of going through each one of the bills just and giving a brief overview of it? And then I think it'll be a lot more efficient if we do that, right? And then we could decide whether or not we want to take a position or action on any of them.
Okay.
So if you guys want to just, if you guys feel good about that, then I'll do that. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, shoot, come on. All right, so AB 9 is the Department of Ag's water rights bill. There is a wildlife component in there where it talks about trying to go increase the time frame from 10 years to 3 or versus 3 years. And so I personally, I think, that really doesn't affect us as much. So I was thinking a neutral position on that. I know that the department has gone ahead and presented a fiscal note on that, I believe. And I think that's really kind of between them and the Department of Ag. Let's see here. Moving on to AB 59. AB 59 is an NDOW law enforcement bill. This one would actually, let me pull it up here. Bear with me for a second here. The biggest thing on this one is has to do with the bringing in animals from outside the state and enforcing that with the whole point of trying to control the chronic waste disease, CWD. Also includes both. There's a section in here that would also include intentionally feeding wildlife, which has always been a problem just throughout the state, right? They have defined that, which I think is good. They redefined wildlife classifications as a wild mammal or game bird in commission regulation, and stated that. And then also they redefined, apologize you guys, I got something in my eye here. They redefined, they further defined, I should say, what a trophy game mammal is. And so, and then also included what the fines and stuff would be based on if a trophy game animal was harvested illegally or poached versus what we consider just regular big game. And I don't think they increased the fine really. They just identified it as a big game animal is the fine for it would be anywhere between $5,000 and $30,000, and a regular game animal or bird or something like that, the fine could be $250 to I think $500 or something like that. It's not that high, yeah, and so. Excuse me. So that was that one. I think I could support everything the law enforcement division is attempting there. I understand their position on it, and I didn't see anything that jumped out that I think was, and I don't think that the department is. I don't think that they're objecting against it either. I haven't seen any opposition to it yet. So there's that one. That was AB 59. AB 85. Get to that one. Add 66 species of invertebrates. And would require NDOW to hire new people. I think one person's going to be doing it. They did issue a fiscal note. I think there's about $230,000 in additional revenue wouldn't be needed to be able to support this. Everything sounded. The governor's finance office came forward and said that their ask is reasonable, and so I don't see very much disdain on that. I think it's going to come down to fiscal appropriations, right? Whether or not the legislature feels like this would be something that they would want to cut to try and resolve the shortfall that they have, right? I think every agency is worried about that right now. So that's that one. They did issue a fiscal note on that, of course. Oh, I already said that. I'm sorry. AB 87. I think it's warranted. I think it's great that that NDOW is taking a position on different species of invertebrates. We've never really included them, and so they've kind of been the lost, if you will, the lost bees and things like that. And I think it could be very positive for our state. So yeah, I would probably be in support of that, unless something comes out to where the commission, brings something out that they're concerned about. I think that they're probably going to support that. And then was that AB 87? Okay, so AB 87 is that is really predicated on wildlife crossings. They're actually creating a wildlife crossing account, if you will. It's a budget account where there'll be a committee that actually decides on how much is used out of that account for wildlife crossings. Again, I think the state of Nevada really set the pace across the country for wildlife crossings. We are like the poster child of who's done it right and been successful with it. And so I think it's great. I think this is the next step of helping people understand how to manage them. And personally, I personally am in support of that. If it's managed from a fiscal standpoint wisely, you know what I mean? And that nobody could come in and attach that for something else. That's what was more my concerns, right? Like, okay, who's going to have access to these funds? Because it's like $5 million, right? That they're starting it out with. And then as more revenue comes in, it'll just grow. And so my fear is, just like anything else, there's a shortfall in another category and someone, robs Peter to pay Paul type thing. And so I support it as conceptually, I think, but I think that's something we would really want to, as a board, pay attention to if we see stuff come up on that. They have to be transparent and bringing it out as part of a budget transition. So, I guess I would, as it stands right now, I'm personally in support of it, but and I think that and I know that the department doesn't have hasn't received any opposition yet. They did have a first hearing on it, and I think bipartisanly it was accepted, but I think there was other people that had the same concern that I was with regard to, let's keep an eye on that. Let's really make sure that there's some parameters in place that prevent future leadership or anybody else in the state from trying to attach that. And so that was AB 87, AB 132. Let me find that one. Increases the max size and capacity of and piping of guzzlers, and then also increases the amount of gallons of water that can be pumped into certain guzzlers going forward in the future. Man, I didn't see anything wrong with this. I know that the division is in support of it, of course. It's their bill. And I know that there's a ton of, NGOs that are also in support of it as well, especially like big ones like MBU and groups like that. So I think, supporting that one would be a good thing, or considering to support that would be a good thing. They did have a work session on it. And I believe it was positive, right? And so I don't think really we need to consider that one as much. I think supporting that would probably be a good thing, unless again the division comes or the department comes out with something that just seems so off kilter on it that, or if a legislator proposes something, that's completely outside the scope of, which totally could happen, right? And so, I think we offer a vote of support or neutrality on that. AB 242 is the Sagebrush Eco Council bill, and I personally, I mean, the only thing I know about sagebrush collection is right here in our own backyard. Like I explained earlier, the Prison Hill area is probably one of the best collection sites that the state has. And according to Carson City Parks, Rec, and Open Space, the ecosystem up there is flourishing, according to them. Now, granted, and I don't know if there's really been very much study over there to really predicate whether or not that's factual or not. But I do know that that used to be my backyard, so I would sit there and watch the groups go up there and hand seed all that sage up there on the north side of Prison Hill. It was probably one of the best collection sites, and they did make that a open space user area with trails and stuff that went through there. They are trying to reestablish some of the roads that have been up there for forever, even before I was born, and we used to go up there and ride our bicycles and motorcycles and everything. And they're trying to reestablish some of that. So there is some reseeding efforts going on there. As far as anywhere else in our area, they do go up Gonai Ranch and they seed up there too. There is areas up there that are fenced off that they actually maintain. And really it's the wild horses that are destroying that. So, and then we also have some patches of, it's not sagebrush, but bitterbrush and mahogany brush seeding that goes on as well, and harvesting that goes on as well. So I didn't see anything in the sagebrush ecosystem bill, AB 242, that looked out of sorts. I think it's a good bill. And I think the intent of the bill is very transparent, very open. And I haven't heard of anybody voicing any opposition to it. So I would probably remain neutral on that or support it. I could do both, but I know the department's remaining neutral on it, just so you know. So that's AB 242. The next one is AB 245. So AB 245 is the one bill in the entire this entire legislation that I am 100%, so verbatim against, and so completely, I just absolutely cannot support it. I didn't support it last session, and I ain't going to support it. I'm not going to support it this session. What it does, in a sense, and I think I've shared this with a few of you, is it takes away the ability for anybody under the age of 21 to possess or operate a semi-automatic firearm. And I gave testimony on this twice already, and in opposition for it, mainly from the premise that semi-automatic shotguns are what we train all of our youth and our new shooters with. And the reason for that is because of the recoil management and the safety of those guns. They are easily the safest firearm to train somebody how to shoot a shotgun, especially at moving targets. We can manage the recoil on those guns better than we can any other action type that there is. And so I'm 100% opposed to AB 245. Assembly member Haregi, who put this forth last year, is trying to put it forth again this year. The governor knows my position on it, knows everybody's position on it. A ton of NGOs have spoken out against this as well. And I foresee that if this goes forward, it's likely going to be going forward with a proposed exemption for people that for hunting, sports, shooting. I think there was a whole list that she proposed as far as exemptions, and I just think it's ridiculous that she even proposed it because what else do you have then? Like, so we're going to create a regulation, a law, right, that would affect such a minute portion, like less than 1-2% of people that live in urban areas that are, maybe associated with gangs or something like that. This is mainly for down in Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, those areas that are kind of prone to gang activity. I am completely in opposition of this, and I would encourage all of the board members to be in opposition of it as well.
I think last time I looked, there was zero support for it anywhere.
Well, she's proposing Assembly Member Haregi is proposing an amendment that would include this exemption. And I think even with the exemption, even though it addresses the issues that I have, really, what good is it going to do? Are we going to create a law that really is kind of unenforceable in a lot of areas, right? Like, so you mean to tell me a gangbanger can't say, well, I was going to go target shooting at Clark County shooting facility. That's why I have it. You know what I mean? Come on. It just creates more havoc. I just think unreasonable havoc for law enforcement, and it's just bad lawmaking, in my opinion. So I'm 100% opposed to it, and I would encourage the board to show up a position of opposition to it as well. Let's see here, AB 429. Find that one. Let's see here. What is it? Yeah, I'm not. This is a housekeeping bill. It looks like it's not a budgetary. It doesn't have a budgetary component to it, and so my suggestion is that we just remain neutral on it. I don't think it affects us in any way. At first, when I saw it, I think I thought about that they were doing something like this to address the Supreme Court's decision to allow corner cutting on checkerboarded land, which is something that's absolutely legal. Supreme Court issued a judgment on it now, which is great, I think, right? That we don't have these people that come in from other states and buy up checkerboarded land and prevent public access to public lands. I'm 100% against that. And so that's that one. I think we can move past that one. AB 486. This one is this is the second part of the wildlife crossing account development. And so again, it goes with the other bill that we had, AB 87, just kind of a continuation of that. I think it also establishes, how the money's going to be allocated, who's going to manage it, who's going to audit it, all those things, which I think is great. It was the biggest problem that I had with AB 87 when it first came out, is they proposed it, but they didn't have any kind of back-end parameters to for the ongoing management of it, right? And so I like what they've done here. I think that the division is taking a position of support on this, or remaining neutral. I don't remember what it was, but I think we can do either on that one. Excuse me. Okay, SB 101 is mountain lion and black bear edible portions, and including mountain lions and black bears in the edible portions law here in the state of Nevada. Up to this point, edible portions on big game animals are the front and rear quarters, backstrap, and that's it. This would include that if you go out and hunt mountain lions or black bears and you harvest, that you have to take the meat with you, and you don't have to consume it. It doesn't say that we have to physically consume it, but you do have to take it with you out of the field and do something that's legal with it. I know, like with mountain lions, a lot of people do consume mountain lion meat, and great if that's your thing, right? Some others will actually make dog food out of it or pet food out of it, which I think is fantastic as well. It's a good utilization of that, I think. Feeding your pets a natural diet like that, I think, is good. And so this just includes those two in that edible portions. And I do support that. I think that I've always supported that, even when we developed the black bear hunt. That was the one thing that I just had disdain about with the black bear hunt was the fact that we didn't require anybody to take the meat out of the field, that they could just skin an animal and leave the meat in the field. 100% against that from a personal standpoint, but I like what they've done here. So that would be SB 101. And then SB 215 is, let me find that one, is Senator Titus's bill. Senator Titus did reach out to me on this, and had a great conversation with her. Kevin Law and myself had a great conversation with her. We did talk about this. This is the first stab at us potentially directing the department to issue salvage permits for any big game animal that is hit by a motor vehicle, or that includes a incidental method of death, right? Or accidental method of death. And so the only thing I see as an issue with this is, and we've seen this in other states, right? I love the concept of it, right? That we try not to let any of these natural resources go to waste. If somebody hits a deer and they want to take the deer and consume a portion or all of it, up until this point, they've never been able to legally do that. And that all that meat has been completely wasted and taken to a disposal facility. And other states allow their citizens to receive salvage permits to be able to consume that. And so the only downside to it is you're always going to have those outlier people, right? That I know people that I've heard of people that put big giant brush guards on their trucks, and anytime they see a big elk or something like that, they purposely hit the darn thing. And I've only heard of that. I've never really seen it, but if that's the case, I can't imagine there's too many people that would want to do that, especially out here. Exactly. And so that's the only concern that I had. I know law enforcement has always had a concern with that as well. But I like what Senator Titus is doing here. I think it really potentially helps the public, and especially those that may be struggling a little bit financially. It would allow us to be able to donate meat to like people that or groups that actually feed the unfortunate, right, and the needy, and if they want it. And so I think it could be a lot more positive than not positive. And so for that reason, I support it, or I personally support it. The next one is let's see here. SB 235, which is Ira Hansen's bill. This is what we have classified the deadhead bill. And what it does is, I will tell you, NDOW is opposed to this. I don't know whether they're opposed to it because it's Ira Hansen's bill or because it's legit. The NDOW has consistently had a real issue with Ira Hansen, Senator Hansen, and stems back from issues he had that he was called on him and his family were called on the carpet on in the field. He is an avid sportsman. So I think sometimes you got to take that with a grain of salt, right? But I will say that I looked at this bill and it allows for anybody to gather a deadhead if they find it in the wild without having to report it to Nevada Department of Wildlife. He has tried to put this bill forward before, and it was met with opposition by Nevada Department of Wildlife. Their position's always going to be that there's going to be people that this opens the door for poaching potentially and caching animals, for a year out or something like that. And I agree with that. I mean, as someone who's actually seen that, being with the Operation Game Thief board, we've actually had cases where people have done that, and we've given rewards for people that have turned them in. That being said, it's very, very minimal, right? But even that, I think that law enforcement's against it. I think it's so far NDOW is opposed to it as well. But like I said, I support it in concept. Just don't want to see law enforcement have issues and with trying to enforce it and people taking advantage of that new law. Okay.
Before we move on, then, is that support neutral? Do we want to not support it?
Well, I mean, I would just ask the board, what's your guys' thoughts on that? Like I said, it's, there's positives and negatives on that one. And, I don't know.
I would be opposed to it. The way it's written, there's really no controls. As you mentioned, there have been incidents that have occurred where people have either poached an animal, chopped the head off, hid the head, so they could come back to it later and claim it as a dead head. I have heard anecdotally of this goes way back when they used to have a point minimum for bighorn sheep, where
Curl.
On the curl.
Yeah.
So I think it was like 144, and if you were slightly less than that, someone would just go out after the season, hide it, go back, because they knew if they harvested, they would be in big trouble with NDOW, and they'd have to give up their bighorn sheep. That was one of the penalties. You had to turn in your animal if it was undersized. And we don't do that anymore. There's no score limit anymore. But
One of
there's,
them have to have a curl.
right.
That's what the rule is now on bighorns.
And why there's always somebody looking to exploit laws and regulations. There's always that one person, unfortunately, that ruins it for everybody. And we have to protect against those people. And we certainly don't want to encourage anybody going out and poaching an animal and going to that location, you know, at a later time and saying, oh, look, I didn't have a tag. Look at these great horns I found. And I think they're giving someone an opportunity to do that is a bad idea. I just think it's a bad idea. And you know, if this law was setting up some type of regulation where, you know, if someone discovered a deadhead, then they could mark the location, then it could be investigated by the Department of Wildlife, and they could authorize them
That's how it is right now.
keeping it. Yeah, right?
Danny's a recipient of that, right?
Yeah, I got I got a huge desert ram deadhead I found.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. It shouldn't just be,
And I mean, I took pictures, marked it, I humped it out
That's
because I was
perfect.
way back there.
yeah.
And then I showed them, and they were like, gave me the salvage document. But this also talks about the transferring a license from one person to another who is under the age of 18 too. The first part of it.
Yes, there's more to this bill.
Yeah.
I didn't quite get to that part also. So I don't like that it just makes it wide open as opposed to the system we have now.
Yeah, I mean, that's, so I don't understand why is the reason, I don't get why, because there's already a system in place for a law-abiding people.
Yeah, I apologize about that, you guys. I read that whole thing, so I apologize about that. Yeah, which that component of it I really like. That being able to transfer your tag to somebody under the age of 18, I really like that. I do recognize that there could be some potential issues with that, I guess. In the fact that if you had multiple, I don't know. It's a tough one, that one. I could be supportive of the transferring of a tag, you know. But I don't know about the deadhead
I mean,
collection.
yeah, it makes no sense because there's already a process in place.
Yeah. Now they did issue a fiscal note on this, so it's so the fiscal note is about 36 grand, which is small of what they are saying the department would have to increase funding to be able to manage this. I think that's just law enforcement on both ends, right? They'd have to, the administrative part of it, of transferring a tag, there is some administrative duties there to be able to do that. So I could support that part of it, but I don't know if I could support the deadhead collection.
Yeah, and then in section 2, they have a cross out if so that a game warden, they can ask you for your license, but they can no longer ask to see your weapon or ammunition. And obviously there's restrictions on ammunition and weapons by species in many cases. So obviously they need to be able to inspect that.
Yeah.
I don't know what his thought
That's
process
part of
is.
Ira's. Part of Senator Hansen's thing. Again, he got actually cited for that. And so this isn't the first time he's tried to get that removed. I'm not in agreement with that. I think that that's part of our regulations and we need to adhere to it.
And I think the big one, I think we should just oppose the entire Senate bill just on the fact that they're just putting pork in it, giving a good thing to approve two bad things. And I think if they want to give a transfer of license to people under the age of 18, they should just do a standalone.
Well, it was a standalone bill and then he added on
Yeah, I
to
was
it.
saying, yeah, so they just, I
So-
would say just oppose it.
I say do not support. I'm in that.
Yeah, I mean, I would be in favor of opposing it unless they took out the deadhead, all the deadhead stuff and,
Oh, and the provision in regards to not allowing a game warden to inspect your
Yeah.
firearm and ammunition.
exactly. Yeah, if it was just the transfer
Oh.
part, I'd be good with it.
100%.
So I think we oppose it unless there's an amendment proposed that would take all those other things out, then we can move our position to support. But again, I'm just one person, so.
I'm with you on this.
Okay,
That's all?
there's one more.
It's all I got. 215. No, that's it.
215 we already covered,
Fiscal note, yeah.
salvage permit. So there is they issued a last minute fiscal note to it and yeah, I mean, it's minimal. We gotta expect that, right? So, yep.
All right, so here we go.
You wanna start from the beginning and
I
take
was gonna
positions?
say, I was gonna just do them all support, talk about the 2 neutrals, and then about the 2 do not supports.
Okay, do we want to, is there any that we wanna pull out for further discussion or do we have enough discussion on them?
I'm good with the discussion that we've had.
I'm good as well with the discussion. I think we,
Yeah, I think we covered, the only one I would want to talk about is 235, but it sounds like we're in agreement.
Okay. Is there anything you wanna bring out to
Public?
public? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll open up really quick for the public, just to have a quick conversation on anything that you guys want to discuss further. And then we'll take it on and decide if we want to continue the discussion. Yeah, come on up, state your name.
Denny French, thank you, Chair. I had that introvert situation, the bees and consideration of that. I really support that as far as my following. And also because of my suggestion about sage, or my talk about that area that they took out, those invertebrates really depend on a great deal. I go out with a little magnifying glass, and those places are well inhabited, or used to be. So that was a terrible loss. And then the next thing is the clean or dry bone, which is in part of the SB 235. That's part of that third bunch. I didn't get to read the extra material on that, so that you're not being in favor for the most of it myself, but just was wondering if that was part of it, because I was trying to make sure I read these things right. But I'm online with most everything. I really think the Guzzler deal is a good idea, and you've already expressed your interest in that. I really feel that the deal about the water for the agriculture, that was one I didn't think really you had. I wasn't sure of your position on that, but it was to suggest that they were going to allow more water for wildlife and take that or utilize some of the agricultural water depending on the time of year. Did I get that right or completely wrong?
I mean, it does address that, but there's already parameters in place
Okay.
that address that. I don't know if it was more water,
They suggested more water for wildlife, and my
in certain
understanding.
areas, not,
Yes, right.
yeah.
But that I just wanted to make sure I was getting half of that right. Thank you very much. I think that's it. But the vertebrate deal wasn't considered, I think, when Prison Hill was being designed. And that was unfortunate. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. French. Any other public comment? State your name for the record, please.
Good evening. Hi, Robin Orloff for the record. I am not sure I understood completely the sagebrush ecosystem bill, but I think it said that they would be able to do whatever they need to do to preserve the sagebrush in Nevada. And I have concerns. I go to the SEC meetings. I've gone to some of the public lands meetings. And I feel that the horses are being maligned and the cattle damage isn't being fully considered. And I eat meat, I eat filet, I like cattle, I love ranching in Nevada. I think it's part of our economy and our heritage, and I don't want to change that. But I'd like to see the damage caused by the cattle being given some consideration in the studies. And I don't see pictures and studies of that damage, but I do see the studies of the horse damage in all these meetings. My husband and I go to Eastern Nevada to a lot of the same places you do. Recently, we went from Rachel to Alamo, all along Warm Springs, along 375 there, a lot of cattle there. We stopped, we looked at springs, we went to the Reveille Range, the Kawich Range, we've been through Railroad Valley, we've been north of Rachel, up by the 51 boundary where there are a lot of springs, and we've seen lots and lots and lots of cattle, and there's lots and lots of damage. The pole line road from Tonopah to Gabbs by the mine there, trampling the grasses down to nubbins, and that's okay. I mean, this is part of doing cattle ranching in Nevada, but I feel like that needs to be acknowledged, not just the horse damage, which is the main thrust of the meetings and the push by the coalition for the helicopter roundups, get rid of the horses. And I just wish there were another way to integrate both so that both could live harmoniously somehow. And I don't know where that would come in this bill. I'll have to follow it at the legislature and SEC. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Open it up to that. Did anyone want to open anything else up for further discussion? All right, perfect. I'm going to take a crack at this then. All right, I'd entertain a motion to support AB 59, AB 85, AB 87, AB 132, AB 242, AB 486, SB 101, and SB 215, and then take a neutral stance on AB 9 and AB 429, and then take a do not support stance on the AB 245, and then a do not support stance on SB 235 with a comment saying, unless it's only stripped back to the transfer of younger than 18 for tags, then we would support it.
I can second that, sir.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right, ayes take it unanimously. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Moving on to item number 7, information here. Future agenda items. Any future agenda items that we see on this board?
Chair Fleming, I noticed that I didn't add the commitments to the next meeting. So if you guys could discuss that in this item or public comment.
Yep.
It's April 4th.
April Fool. Gotcha. I'll add that. We'll go through this future agenda item, then I'll add that in. Nothing. All right, perfect. And then we'll do item 8, I suppose.
Well, you can't do that.
No.
You need to do it during public comment.
Okay, during public comment. Okay. Well, then we'll go to public comment, and to start with it, we'll discuss the commitments for the future meetings.
So April 4th, I can participate in that online. I would encourage all of us to.
It is only online.
It is, I know, yeah. It's a virtual, but I would encourage all of us to try and participate in that if possible. I would encourage the public to also participate in that meeting. It's April 4th. You'll get to hear the commission's position on all these bills. They'll be a little bit more in depth, I think. And then anything new will come out in that commission meeting as well. So I can attend that one. And then I think the next commission meeting, Brianna, can you tell us when that is? That is the actual next commission meeting. Is that in May, right?
Yep. So the next meeting for this board is April 29th. So I guess the commission meeting would be May 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah. And that's in Reno, I believe.
I think so. Let me double check.
So I am planning on attending if unless somebody else is dying to attend that meeting.
No, if I'm forgetting if I have something the week before, then I'm gonna be out of town, but if not,
I would
go to
concede,
the Reno one.
okay, I can concede if those of you that want to attend the Reno meeting, or it doesn't matter, we all can
Matter,
go.
we all go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but just know that I'm planning on doing it if nobody else can, so.
All right, perfect.
I can be there for Friday for sure, and probably almost, I should be able to do almost all of Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday I will have to do virtual because I do have a commitment midday, so. But I can start off in the morning.
All right, perfect. We're good. We got to cover. So I will open it to the rest of the public now for comment. Well, the actual public.
Robin Orloff again. I did listen to the meeting on my way over. I was late, but I heard what was going on. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what Denny started bringing up about Prison Hill. And I think our concern is, as you know, it's a conservation easement property. It came to us from the BLM in 2009, protect, preserve the property. And I don't know if you're familiar with Carson River Trail 2 and 3, but they're very wide multi-use pathways they're called, but they look like roads to me. And they've been constructed with road construction equipment through the sagebrush. And they have destroyed Carson River 2 from 5th Street to Silver Saddle, destroyed about 2 miles of intact sagebrush. And then from Coons to the OHV area, it was 2.5 miles, where they're mowing down 10 feet wide. It's supposed to be the first trail went to 12 to 18. That was a mistake. They've corrected that in Carson River Trail 3, and they're keeping to the 10 to 11 feet. But it is through virgin sagebrush. And we've brought that up as a concern. And I have to commend Parks Open Space. They're trying to prevent the collateral damage that occurred in Carson River Trail 2 in Carson River Trail 3. However, it just doesn't seem to be in keeping or consistent with that property. I actually had a lawyer look at the conservation easement with me, and initially he thought, well, conservation easement favors the landowner. If there's, liberal construction, if there's ambiguity about how the land is used, it's in favor of the owner, which would be Carson City. I said, I don't know, you better read that again. And he did. And he said, this is a very unusual conservation easement. It's in favor of the land. And he refunded me $1,000 because he got it wrong. We just feel there was a special use permit, and supposedly the trail is consistent, with current trail and neighborhood, which we disagree with, and it would not damage intact sagebrush except maybe a small amount, but it has. So it'd be nice if it could be looked at again. I understand inclusivity for all ages and all abilities, but we have trails all over Carson City, asphalt on the west side. We have the river trail from Morgan Mill all the way to Mexican Ditch. We have all the Riverview trails, the Silver Saddle trails, old ranch roads that could easily be graded even more than they are with road base. I think we have plenty, but to violate a conservation easement is a concern. So I don't know, considering sagebrush, we're supposed to be preserving, NDOW gave a report about the loss of sagebrush and their concern. So maybe there could be more of a conversation. What's done is done, but this trail is going to continue all the way around the hill, on the east side of the hill. So that's just our concern about it, to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. State your name for the record.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Thank you. I had brought up earlier my considerations towards a request by the state to start looking for corridors for migrations. And the city doesn't seem to be too involved in that. Open space is certainly not involved. Their idea, and I've mentioned it before the meeting, my understanding is that they don't want more open space to keep track of, because that takes away from their parks and recreation staff. And I would almost prefer to have them have their own open space separate from Parks and Rec, but funding is all sort of tied together. But my main thing is that anything you could do or suggest, because BLM land and state land and other properties are going to be coming available, to think about where things migrate through. I can't get a grip on it. I know the fire department has a grip on where they think a fire might roll because of the wind patterns and different things like that. But with our weather like it is and our animals adjusting to the new climate and considerations just for the seasonal changes alone, not considering global, those patterns may change, but without those stopping points, critters just aren't going to have a chance. I just watched a thing on hummingbirds, and one of the things they said was this hummingbird had used every bit of its energy to get to an area, and they're very territorial, so their energy is used sometimes to fight off other hummingbirds. And that hummingbird had no other stopping place between itself and where it nested to refuel. So it was life or death struggle over a small patch of area. And having those refuels, it'd be like saying, well, Denny, you're going to buy your bread at this store, and you're going to buy your butter at this store, and you're going to buy, peanut butter or the jelly somewhere else. Well, I don't have the gas to do that. So am I only going to have a portion of my meal substitutes or necessities? So I don't think people really understand the necessities for areas designated to insects, wildlife, because the introverts are now going to get their share of, I think, consideration. And I don't think we've done that. But I have, like I said, seen a lot of deer around, a lot more than I used to. And it's because I'm going different paths, but it's amazing to me that they survive as well as they do. And I think at one meeting, one of you said, they even cross at the cross stops. It might have been, they know the area. And that's, I'm sorry to extend this, but that's generational knowledge. And I think with the coyotes and such, generational knowledge is getting lost. So they're going to increase their problems every time they have a litter of pups because they haven't learned or don't have the opportunity to learn from their elders where to stay out of, what not to get near, where to go for this and what you need there. And they keep having to relearn it. It's like redesigning the wheel. They have to start again. That generational loss of DNA knowledge is very important. So I am not for just, going for the best of anything because our DNA also is affected. The better of the sheep are going to be for trophies, the better of whatever. And we might want to have to tag some of those really well breeders and healthy animals as don't touch. But that would be very hard to go out and make that decision because nature does. They ram heads together to decide who's going to have this group to mate with. And so those things are a little complicated, but without some consideration about that in the future, we're going to have a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Anyone on the phone? All right. I'll look for a possible action to adjourn the meeting at 6:35 p.m.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All against, nay. All right, meeting adjourned.
Seconded and I.